So Matt and the Webster Economic Development Alliance has a presentation.
Do you all? I think so.
It's all over.
I know. Do you gentlemen want a handout?
Thank you.
Would you like a handout?
Thank you.
First one. All right, thank you for the time this evening. Again, my name is Matt Chatfield. I am the Executive Director of the Webster Economic Development Alliance, a public-private partnership composed of the town of Webster, the village of Webster, the school district, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Business Improvement District here in our community. As the Executive Director and essentially I'm the only staff of the Alliance, I'm in charge with promoting and coordinating economic development and job creation within the Webster community. And periodically what I do is I go out and I attempt to bring funding into the community for economic development or community development projects that are to the benefit of the community itself. Successfully in the past, we brought in funding for improvements on North Avenue. That was $811,000 of federal transportation monies, which got us the sidewalks, the streetlights, the brand new gateway improvements at both the Orchard Street intersection and of course the interchange with Route 104. In addition, we've also brought in some additional transportation funding to the town of Webster. They're currently in the engineering phases of sidewalk and bicycle lane improvements on Ridge Road, extending from Rachel Drive, which is just outside the western boundary of the village, and traveling westward to 5 Mile. So, and that was about $1.5 million of federal transportation. And I bring up those two projects in particular because we're in the process of going after additional state and federal funds for transportation improvements in our industrial area in the community. Let me see if I can bring this up on the screen here. So the project area in particular encompasses the majority of the Xerox campus. The majority of the Xerox campus today is private roadways. Actually, all of the Xerox campus right now is private roadways. And to facilitate enhanced economic development and reuse of vacant and abandoned buildings and lands, the Alliance is proposing to the village that some of these roadways, in particular Orchard Street, okay, the extension of Orchard Street, San Jose Drive, and then Mitchell Dean, as well as Panama Road. We're proposing that the village consider taking dedication of these private roadways as public thoroughfares, and then being able to open up industrial development within the campus, the core area of the campus, that would then permit buildings and lands along those corridors to now front on a public thoroughfare. And when they front on a public corridor, it makes them much more likely to be either divested or reused, creating jobs and economic benefits to the community. So the goal here is, can we identify state and federal funding resources to help rehabilitate those roads prior to them entering into the public domain? The condition of the roads is fair to poor. When assessed by Labella Associates back in 2017, there's a standard rating system that's developed for all transportation resources. It's a scale of 1 to 10, with obviously 10 being a brand new road and 1 being essentially a failing road. The roadways on the campus average to about 4. So they are fair to poor in condition. And the study suggested that partial rehabilitation and spot reconstruction would be necessary in some instances for these roadways. We conducted an analysis of that. The roadways, we'll zoom in here. You can see on the screen would be page figure 4 in the packet. So Mitchell Dean, San Jose Drive, Orchard Street, Panama, just so you have a better understanding of the corridors. They're largely the primary ones, with the goal being that they would facilitate accessibility and mobility through the campus, as well as opportunities to develop sites that are along those roadways by private interests. And for the most part, this is actually for interests that would be other than Xerox Corporation. Xerox Corporation is in the process of consolidating its operations onto the campus. And our goal is to then leverage the existing assets, infrastructure, buildings, and bring new investment and businesses into the community that will create jobs, both direct jobs and induced and indirect jobs in our community with support services and other areas of their supply chain. So then that is the primary goal for this effort. This effort has nothing to do with assisting Xerox in their direct, essentially as a subsidy to Xerox directly. This is a long-term strategy to sustain economic development in Webster, both town and village. And then as part of this longer-term phase, it is being at least considered that some potential small roadway segments could be extended in the town of Webster that connect the campus roadway system, particularly on the west Chioda Drive extension to Route 250, which is about 950 linear feet, very short connection on town only, and an extension of Webster Industrial Park westward to Salt Road at an intersection with Mitchell Dean, which would then provide us a full corridor traveling from Route 250 eastward to Basket Road, connecting not only the job creation and employment district here on the campus, but also linking all of the recreational assets that we have in this area, in particular the town's recreation center. And then there is the Yankee Stadium turf field that the school district recently purchased, as well as the private 10 regulation field soccer complex that's also off of Basket Road. These are all major destinations within our community, yet they're very difficult to access and get to as they currently are, as the roadways are currently stated. So the goal is, can we enhance access to them? And in the process, the current project that is being proposed for the enhancement of Mitchell Dean in particular would include a shared use bike path, hopefully it's being proposed along the south side of Mitchell Dean. That could then potentially be extended along Chioda, and then of course across to Webster Industrial Park. So now we're talking about physically linking bicycle and peds across the community and through this area that is, for the most part, is an unsafe area for bikes and pedestrians to travel now. But it would be a very beneficial link. And as part of our analysis, you can go to, in your packet, it's probably the second to last page, called the preliminary estimate of cost. So you can understand the activities that are being proposed to be funded by state and federal and then private resources. Pavement rehabilitation activities, center medians, lane reduction. The concept would be, can we enhance these business corridors to make them more enjoyable, more, you would beautify them. Obviously, the purpose is to attract business and investment, and with the roadways in their current condition, constructed in 1972 and 1973, they're very unappealing in today's current marketplace. They're just not, it doesn't provide a campus atmosphere that most people would be interested in working. And it is difficult to both attract and retain qualified talent for Xerox and for any business in that corridor based on just the physical setting of the campus. This project is one effort to improve upon that. Street lighting, and then of course there will be ancillary underground utility improvements for the project itself. It's estimated currently with a 20% contingency that total project cost is around $9.2 million. And the majority of that is proposed to come from federal transportation resources. We attempted to submit an application this summer in the beginning of the month, Unfortunately, we were unable to fully get the application finalized and submitted to within the litany of red tape in the federal government as far as their award management system, the contract management system. That being said, the application that we put together is only to the benefit of our application for the Empire State Development Funds, which is due tomorrow. Okay, so our intention is to submit a grant application tomorrow for just over $1.8 million to get the ball rolling. And that ball rolling would be engineering, analysis, and also some short-term stabilization activities, crack sealing, micro paving, any sort of spot reconstruction to prevent the further deterioration of those corridors prior to them.
The Empire State, how much was that, 1 point?
So 1.838
Okay.
million. And if we go to the last page of your packet, it spells it out. The very bottom, total project cost 9.2, that's projected. That includes a 20% contingency on construction based on our engineering estimates. The build 2020 assistance, that would be federal government funding of $6.8 million. The minimum application for that program is $5 million. You can't even ask for less than $5 million. You can't be awarded more than $25 million. So an application for $6.8 million isn't out of the realm of possibility. The New York State ESD grant, that's the grant we will be submitting tomorrow, is $1.838 million. And then there's a line item for private funding, which would be funding provided by either Xerox Corporation and or any other future owners of lands in that general vicinity. So as you can see, it is not proposed at all for local tax dollars to be spent towards this effort. The local tax dollars will be spent in the long term as these roads are maintained and brought into the public realm and added to the current network that the village right now on average it's about $30,000 per lane mile. And maybe that cost can get brought down. I know the town has a little bit lower of a cost per lane mile for their maintenance and overall management of the roadway system. So somewhere in there's going to be a happy medium. And long term, that's the cost to the community, with the goal of that being offset by added jobs, added increased property values, and then of course some tax benefits that go along with that as those properties come back in to being in productive use. So I just wanted to make the board aware of the activities that we're undertaking on behalf of the village. I also wanted to open this up for opportunities for either public comment and of course board comment and questions regarding the application and the process.
Yeah, I went and I drove down there
I did too.
just to go through all the different roads. I mean, I worked there 30 years. And I could not believe the disrepair that was there. I mean, I even went into the parking lots and everything, so there was a huge amount that needs to be done. And if we're going to get industry back in here, we need to do something. So, yeah, anything that we can do.
I have a question regarding the roads and rehabilitating the roads. Are we looking at maintaining the same width? Are we going to narrow the roads so there's less asphalt?
I think that it would be anticipated that a lane reduction or a road diet could be feasible based on the final engineered solution. Obviously, my background is in as a landscape architect or urban planner. I spent 14 years in construction consulting, so I'm very good at doing estimating for these types of projects and writing the grants, but I don't pretend to be the actual transportation engineer. So my goal and hope would be that we could do a lane reduction or a roadway diet. The roadways are very wide,
Yes.
as they are now. There's some roads that are, it's 60 feet for 2 lanes or 60 feet for 3 lanes. They are industrial roads, and you want to be able to provide access for large vehicles.
That was all the trucks.
But
yeah.
the standard that they're constructed to now doesn't even meet the public standard, so and there's no reason we wouldn't be able to hopefully narrow that line, which also saves money.
1.8 is something that we would be looking to get to the grant tomorrow.
Correct.
And then we would reapply or apply for the rest.
In a year's time.
Next cycle.
In a year's time. Yep. Yeah, the goal is, although we were unsuccessful in applying, right now, we were really trying to shoot for the moon, to be perfectly honest. We were trying to apply for state and federal all at once. And it was very unlucky, to be honest, to get the federal funds, because I don't think we had enough homework done. But with the engineering analysis and a lot of the environmental review that would take place early on with this first set of grant funds, I think we would be in a much better position to be awarded those federal ones.
Okay, is there a time frame on that one? That one grant that you're talking about?
The federal grant?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
time, yeah.
So, well, I mean, I know that our hope is that the same funding program will be available next year. Sometimes in the federal government it is or it isn't, but I do know that the House of Representatives just passed a budget funding measure today. It should go to the Senate. It would be an additional $320 million in domestic spending, of which $1 billion of that would go directly into this program. This program was funded at $900 million this year. So the proposal on the table would be to fund the same program at $1 billion next year, so there'd be another $100 million available. So the hope is that we would still hit the window at the most opportune time when funding will be there.
Thank you.
When will we know if we receive this?
The New York State, the Empire State Development Grant would get submitted tomorrow, and we would be notified likely in the first or second week of December of this year. And then from there, the Empire State Development sends out an incentive contract, and then we go through that process.
How competitive are these?
Very. Luckily, we've been working very closely with our counterparts at the state government level on this topic, and our federal partners. They're very aware of what our efforts are, and very supportive of it. So we're hoping we have some people on that point.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Did we want to open it up for comments from the public?
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments? Good thing. Great thing, actually.
Yeah.
I like the idea that it opens up everything for us. We're preparing everything for.
Well, that's what we need.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Nice job, man.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that.